In today's hyper-connected world, our right to control our own information is often stripped away without our knowledge.
They're inside your browser usually, or your mobile device, yes. They're called.
And you haven't necessarily invited them in.
You have not invited them in.
Companies, data brokers, and governments collect vast amounts of data about us, more than we might imagine.
These third parties will collect your click stream as you click from site to site to site to see what you may be reading, what you may be interested in.
But the good news is that we can take back control. Privacy isn't about hiding. It's about the right to decide for ourselves who gets our data. And I've seen so many people waking up to this reality, pushing back against surveillance apologists and deciding to reclaim control of their digital lives. But a lot of people just don't know where to begin or what exactly to do. So this video is a Privacy 101 guide for those of you who are just getting started. Basically, if you're overwhelmed by the prospect of reclaiming your online privacy, don't be. Every small step you take makes a big difference. We're going to start with the lowest hanging fruit, what I consider 6 of the easiest things that you can do right now that will have a big impact on your daily privacy. These low hanging fruit are browser, search engine, messaging app, email, calendar, and VPN.
A perfectly normal, fresh, delicious strawberry.
The aim isn't to tell people what to install. Every individual is going to know best what they value most from a platform. So that's why we have a ton of other videos doing deep dives on all of these topics, looking at a wide variety of products and their trade-offs. In this video, I give a few examples of specific platforms and tools that I personally use, but I highly recommend that you explore your options so that you can make an informed decision. And if you have recommendations for tools that we didn't mention, please share them with others in the comments. Let's start with what I think is probably the easiest thing to switch out in your life, and that's your browser. Your browser is your gateway to the internet. It does highly sensitive work. It sees highly personal information, and it's a huge privacy leak in most people's lives. Chrome browser has the largest market share of any browser, and they track your every move. The good news is that switching to a privacy-focused browser is really easy. And if you take this step, you're doing better than 80% of the people out there. How do you choose a good browser? There's a website I recommend called privacytests.org, where they look at all kinds of different tracking that browsers can do and see how these browsers compare. Brave, Mullvad, and LibreWolf all seem to stand out on the list. Next, I recommend that you set this new browser as your default browser. On Brave, for example, you'd click the Brave drop-down menu at the top of your screen, select Settings, and it will be one of the options on the Get Started page. Then, to make your transition easier, you can actually import all of your old bookmarks from your old browser. If you were using Chrome, first you'd click on the 3 dots on the top right corner, go to Bookmarks, and select Bookmark Manager. Once in the Bookmark Manager, click the 3 dots in the top right corner again, and this time select Export Bookmarks. Choose where you want to save your file and click Save. This will export your bookmarks as an HTML file. Then in your new privacy browser, you can import that file. If you're on Brave, you'd go to your Bookmark Manager, click on the 3 dots in the top right corner, select Import Bookmarks, and then select the HTML file you just downloaded. Now, one point of tension leaving your old browser might be that it automatically logs you into your favorite sites, and you don't want to lose that convenience. Well, you can have that same convenience with your new browser too. So the final step you might want to consider is importing any saved passwords. In your old browser, first you'll export your passwords. If you're using Chrome, you want to open your password manager. You'll either find this by clicking on your profile picture or the 3-dot menu icon in the top right corner, then selecting the key icon, which is Chrome's password manager, or you'll find it under Settings, then Autofill, then by clicking Password Manager. But however you get there, once you're inside Password Manager, click Settings, then click Export Passwords. You'll download a CSV file with your passwords. Keep in mind, this file stores your passwords in plain text, so you want to keep it somewhere really safe, or consider deleting it once you're done. Now you'll simply import these passwords into your new browser. If you use Brave, go to Settings, select Autofilling and Passwords, Then click on Passwords. Select your saved CSV file and click Import. If you use a password manager instead of storing them in the browser, you can install your password manager of choice. Then you can import your passwords directly into the password manager instead. So let's quickly recap, because that seems like a lot more steps than it actually is. Download new privacy-preserving browser. Stop using browsers like Chrome and Edge that are terrible for your privacy. And that's it. That's the first super easy step that you can take to really improve your privacy. Now, what are some other easy wins? Let's move on to number 2, your search engine. What's the difference between a browser and a search engine? Well, think of your browser like a car that takes you to the internet and lets you drive around in it. And think of your search engine like the roadmap that you're using to navigate. A search engine essentially makes an index of the things out there on the internet to help you search through it all and find what you're looking for. The most widely used search engine is Google Search. 90% of people use it. You probably use it, but it's horrendous for privacy. Not only is it building a detailed profile of your interests, habits, medical concerns, or anything else you search for, it's also immediately logging your keystrokes when you use it and sending them to Google, regardless of whether you actually hit the search button or not. That's how they give you predictive text suggestions for your searches. They create these profiles on you because you are their product, and they sell your attention to basically anyone who's willing to pay for it. When you use the Chrome browser, Firefox browser, or Safari browser, or countless others, your default search engine in the browser is Google Search. So that means when you type a query into the URL bar, that's Google that you're using. So a super easy privacy win is just to change search engines. If you already swapped out your browser to one of the privacy-focused ones I mentioned before, they actually don't use Google Search by default. They use more privacy-focused search engines in their URL bar instead. For example, Brave uses Brave Search, which is my search engine of choice, and Molvad and LibreWolf both use DuckDuckGo. Regardless of the browser you use, you can change your default search engine to one that is more privacy-friendly. There are a bunch of other engines that you can try out. See which gets you the best results. One final tip with search engines. Once you've chosen which search engine is going to be your default search engine in the URL bar, you can also set up a secondary choice with this little trick. Make the home screen that your browser first opens to be your secondary option, so that every time you open a new window, it takes you to that search engine homepage. For example, I use Brave in the URL bar, but can set my browser to open on a different search engine, so I have both options immediately available. If you switch out your search engine to use something other than Google, you're doing better than 90% of people. The next step on your privacy journey is securing your communication, starting with your text messages and phone calls. SMS and regular phone calls are not private. Almost every country in the world has mandated lawful access laws, where governments require backdoors in telecommunication channels to allow them to intercept calls and messages. Unfortunately, as with all backdoors, they're never limited to their intended purpose. In 2024, it was discovered that the Chinese used the American government's own backdoors to gain full access to US communications, allowing the Chinese to geolocate millions of Americans and record phone calls at will. You should switch to a private messaging app to better protect your communication. These apps don't rely on insecure telecom channels. Instead, they encrypt your messages end to end and send them over the internet. If they're ever intercepted, only you and your recipient will be able to actually read them. But not all private messaging apps are created equal. You've almost surely heard of some of the most popular ones, like WhatsApp and iMessage. While the content of these communications is protected, which makes them far better than SMS and normal phone calls, Facebook and Apple, respectively, still get a lot of your data. There are more private apps that you can use, and Signal is probably my favorite. They take awesome care to really minimize the amount of data that they collect, to the point that they don't even have that information to hand to governments when asked. Even the way they handle stickers and GIFs is privacy preserving. You can use any VoIP number to sign up, and you can keep your number private from others on the platform. It would be better if account management wasn't tied to a number at all, but as far as as private messaging apps go, it's really simple to use and the one that I've had the most success converting people to. And it's far more popular than people realize. So you'll probably find that some of your contacts are already on there. But there are other private messaging apps you can try out too. Take a look at securemessagingapps.com for an overview of what's out there. If you have trouble converting people to the private messaging app of your choice, we made a video with some helpful tips for convincing your friends and family to ditch SMS.
You can do it!
The next part of your private communications to tackle is your email. Free email services like Gmail scan and analyze your inbox to build comprehensive profiles on you. There are privacy-focused email providers like ProtonMail and Tutor that end-to-end encrypt your messages in-network, use zero-access encryption for emails at rest, which means that emails sent from other providers to your inbox are also out of their reach, and offer password-protected emails so that if you have to send an email to Gmail or Microsoft, you can protect your communication from those companies' prying eyes too. Changing your email can seem like a really big change to make, but it's way easier than you probably realize. In ProtonMail, for example, you can import your entire Gmail history with a single click. You can also import your contact list at the same time so that you don't lose them in the transition. Once your emails are in your new ProtonMail account, for example, you can forward all future Gmail messages to your new inbox, and then you can respond from your Proton address, gradually moving people over to your new system. It's also super easy to set up custom domains in ProtonMail. This means that you can have a professional work email like contact@mywebsite.com, but under the hood, you're using a super private email provider like ProtonMail. Switching your calendar is another one of the super easy, low-hanging fruits that you can start with on your privacy journey. Your calendar is intensely personal. It contains every medical appointment you've had, every birthday of those you know, your daily habits, addresses you visit, every future plan. For most people, these are handed straight over to Google and Apple. But there are private calendars that you can use instead, such as those from Proton or Tutor. Tutor's calendar offering is new, but really promising. Proton's has been around for a while, and the process is crazy simple. You can import your entire calendar history of past and future appointments with a single click. They're instantly transported to your new end-to-end encrypted provider, where they're now private. This is a huge and easy win for your privacy, and you'll never look back. The final easy privacy switch that you can make is using a VPN. A VPN encrypts your internet traffic leaving your device, which isn't so important these days because basically everything we do online uses HTTPS, which also encrypts your traffic in transit. But what a VPN also does is hide your IP address so that you're not handing it over to every website you visit. This is important because your IP address can help people find your physical location, and it can also allow websites and data brokers to more easily build profiles on you. With a VPN, websites instead see your VPN's IP address, adding an additional privacy layer to your activities. A really important caveat though is that the VPN industry is really shady, and you have to be very careful which VPN you use and trust that they're not just collecting and selling your data themselves. Reputable companies like Molvad and Proton are highly regarded options for VPNs. Reclaiming your privacy isn't just about protecting yourself, it's about your right to choose. You don't have to give all your information to thousands of entities and lose control over what happens to that information and how it's used. There are so many amazing privacy tools that you can start using today to take back control of your digital life. Don't be overwhelmed. If you even start with one thing on this list, you will have made a big impact on your privacy. The digital age can sometimes feel like too much to deal with, but you are far more empowered and capable than you realize. And it feels really good to start reclaiming control over your digital life. Your privacy is worth protecting. It's time to take it back. NBTV is a project of the Ludlow Institute, a non-profit that researches and educates about the latest in tech privacy. Help us educate people about how to reclaim their privacy and autonomy in the digital age. Visit nbtv.media/support to set up a monthly tax-deductible donation and take a look at our merch shop. It's another way you can support our work, and you look cool doing it. This is from a merch shop. It's a cat in an invisibility cloak. I'm not here. Seriously.